Welcome back learners to the video module of course Business Demography, and in this video module we are going to study the important topic of this unit is scope and components of demography. In previous section, in previous video module, we understand the introduction of demography. We also understand the factors or the elements of demography in the region, procedure, roles and responsibilities of government, then semi-government, district, and the state-wise policy regarding the demography area. So in this video module, we are detailing understand what are the scope and components of demography, which is important element of this chapter. So with the start with this topic, in previous video module we understand the major role of demography to understand that how the area, how the population, how the birth rate, how the fertility, natality, these terms affects the growth and the declination of any population of any country. So starting with the scope of demography, first one is birth and death rate. So in that both the birth and death rate are given per 1000 people of the country population. So it's a standard statement which are used for any nation that your population and birth rate will be counted given per 1000 people. So you have to remember it very carefully. Then birth and death rate are two important factors in calculation of population. So obviously, as we are the part of India, we are the human being, we are the part of population of our Indian country. So many of the time, every single year, 2 year, 3 year, as per the rules and regulations of government, the population should calculate it. So in that, the two major factors are so important. First one is birth rate and death rate. So that is why government of India doing many of the rules and regulation to calculate such kind of rate with the area perspective of population. By studying the birth rate, many factors like educational literacy rate get explored. So by observing the area of birth rate which are directly affected to the population, which also help you to understand that how much population are in the area of education, how many population is literate or maybe illiterate or they are not able to have education. So by understanding such kind of a element, government take quality action to grow the literacy rate by understanding such kind of a rate of birth and death. So next one is composition and density of population. In that, population is composed of many factors. So like age, gender, education, then occupation. So these are some of the element, some of the term which we understand in the scope of demography. But students, we have to very familiar with such kind of elements as an human being of our nation, of our country. So these are the major part. As a part of our country, we have to always aware with not only the part of subject, but we are always aware with such kind of a term, right? So age is a central concept in demography. So we again repeat such word in previous video session also and in this current session also, that age is the very important factor which are to be used or which are to be calculated in demographical area of this subject. So to the next one, labor force. So we also take it as the conditional working of human being. So government of India or any kind of nation who have their category of like the labor force in like skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled. So in that, the more educated people city has, the professional force will get. So obviously, we take the example of Kerala state. There are n number of people. So we take the literacy rate of that state is more than 85 to 90%. So obviously, the professional people we can hire from that state. So this is nothing but the part of labor force. Then occupational data of a nation gives kind of a labor force country has. So as we again repeat this statement that your occupation, your education, your category of working, your working area, working standard will obviously impact the rate of labor force or the rate of professional which are to be provided for the growth of nation. To the next one, distribution of population. So within a one statement, we simply understand population is composed of many factors like age, gender, education. Again, I repeat this statement because the word distribution itself shows that how it can be calculated or contributed to the area or to the area of the nation for the growth purpose, in their living process, in their income process, in their educational process, in their occupational process, with the traditional method, with their religion, with their community. So these are some factors which are to be used in the distribution of population. Then to the next one, micro view. Under that, studying age specific fertility rate, gender ratio, religion, and languages. So, see, this topic is normally connected in your day to day life because we are very familiar with the fertility, or we are aware with the ratio of population of our country, that many of the fertility centers or the calculated record are always displayed that how our population increase day by day. So in a detail view, in a micro view, by studying age specific fertility will help you to understand the concept or the scope of that demographical area, which is having the impact of religion with their thought process, with their tradition, with their cultural activities, then language. So these are some micro view element for study the demographical scope with the age specific fertility. Then the next one, especially described in the scope of this demographical subject, is occupation. So students, see, in upcoming units, we also familiar with the concept that we are clearly understand that occupation plays a vital role in the subject of demography. Right? Countries all over growth depend upon working population rather than dependent population. तो इसको हम सिंपल लैंग्वेज में अगर समझते हैं तो हमारे फैमिली में हमारे मम्मी पापा अगर जॉब करते हैं, सो दे आर वर्किंग पॉपुलेशन, दे काउंटेड एज अ वर्किंग पॉपुलेशन, एंड वी आर डिपेंडेंट, राइट? तो वो कमा के लाते हैं और हम उनके ऊपर डिपेंड है, सो वी आर डिपेंडेंट पॉपुलेशन. So this is the factor of occupation. Occupational data of a nation gives a kind of a labor force country has. So point number 3 and 6 are similarly intentionally indicate that the occupation is the major part of any nation, which will help to understand the scope of demography. So to the next one, the major part of this video session is components of demography. So it's very simple part. Some of the important term which I display in this slide have to familiar with every students of our class, that how it can be works and how it can plays a vital role to understand the subject of demography. So number one is fertility and the terminologies in fertility, right? So fertility is nothing but the production of a live birth, which is also called as natality. So every single minute, every single hour, there are fertility or there are birth or death happens in our country. So production of a live birth is calculated in fertility. So infertility includes the inability to produce a live birth. So it is nothing but a physiological problem for any human being. So who are not able, or who are not able or unable or inability to produce a live birth. So it is called infertility. Parity is nothing but number of children born alive to a woman. So it is all about a calculation factor and calculation process of components of demography. Then gravidity includes number of pregnancies a woman has had, whether or not they produce a live birth. So in a childhood of our life, we know that when we are in the area of Anganwadi, these are the central scheme which is offered by government of India. Very little bit when we are in childhood. So Anganwadi area calculated such kind of activity which is called as gravidity, that how much pregnancies are in the village or are in the city or are in your near to near places, which will be calculated, and the table will calculate it, or it will help you to government to understand how much people are able or unable, what are the areas in such kind of a gravidity area. So this is the part of gravidity. Then Fecundity is physiological capacity to conceive, or which is also called as a reproductive potential. Also, gravidity and fecundity are nearly but same, but physiological means the capacity, human capacity and strategy to reproduce any human birth or live birth by the woman. So it are included in the factors of fertility. So, in this video module, we are properly understand the calculation of crude birth rate, which is also called as a CBR. As in previous slide, we understand this is the number of live birth per 1000 population in a given year. So, we understand the population rate will calculated by this formula. So, the formula for the CBR is equal to number of birth divided by total population into 1000. So as we see in previous slide, so it will give you a crude birth rate, right? So this is the basic formula. We just have to understand that how it can be calculated. It is only the theory part of our subject, but for our syllabus it will be essential that how you can calculate, or how the government of India or the government of any nation calculated with the formula. The perspective is many of the time different, but we have familiar with our syllabus content. So the data requirement and limitation of CBR are in a very simple mode, that all the population included in the denominator is not exposed to the risk of pregnancy. So this is the standard rule offered by the nation, that it will be the part of a risk of pregnancy many of the time are not included, or included in the process of population factor. Only a crude estimate of fertility. So those calculation are to be done with this formula, will recorded with the nation process of the government or of the department of such kind of a number of birth and death rate which are to be calculated. So this is the complete scenario where we understand the scope and components of our demography subject. So students, many of the times such terms are new to you, but by understanding it, by clear with the concept, we understand that such terms in this video model, that population, then income, then your gender, then your age, then your area, then your religion, are major factor to calculate or to correlate with the subject of demography. So this is all about today's video session. In next video session, we continue with the next element of this unit. Thank you.